Hi there, my name is Rufus Deutschler, Worldwide Design Evangelist at Adobe Systems. In this episode of CS Insider, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the tools available in the Overlay Creator panel in InDesign CS 5.5. In the last episode, we talked about hyperlinks, slideshows, image sequences, and how to put audio and video into your digital documents. Now we're going to look at panoramas, web content, and pan and zoom. To start with, let's create a 360 panorama. Let me show you over in Bridge exactly what this panorama looks like. This is actually a sequence of 6 images. Basically, the panorama is a top to bottom panorama and left to right 360 that your user will then be able to look at in your publication. Basically, it's a series of 4 images that represent the 360 degrees around you, and then another one that represents the top and the bottom. Usually these images are made with fisheye lenses on your cameras and by taking several pictures and then have those pictures be stitched together to create that image. And then there's applications out there that will allow you to take this panoramic image and actually convert it into that cubic panorama that we will be needing for creating the panorama in InDesign. To create the panorama, let me go back to InDesign, and all you need to do is to actually create an image frame here and choose Panorama in the Overlay Creator panel. And then tell InDesign where those images actually are. Let's go over here into my Panorama folder, and this is the folder containing those 6 images. I'm going to open that, and InDesign will open the first image and use it as a poster. Let me resize that for a second and put it here into my layout. And now we can have a look at all of the options that we can actually change in the Overlay Creator panel. First of all, we can define the initial zoom, and that is how far in the image the viewer will actually look at it initially. And you can change that value right here. And you can also tell the 360 viewer where it should actually start, at what degree, in vertical and horizontal. So not necessarily do you have to start on that exact image that we have here. And then you can also define the field of view. The field of view is in degrees how much of the image you actually see initially in the viewer. And then you can also, and this is very interesting, you can limit vertical pan or horizontal pan. And that is very useful when, for example, you don't have a full 360 panorama, but maybe only the first 180 degrees that are in front of you. And so this, you would delimit by saying to limit the horizontal pan. Okay, so you can actually limit how far the user will actually see the image. And the same thing goes for the vertical pan. For example, if you're missing the information of the sky or the information of the bottom of the image. Again, we will go to File, Folio Preview, and the Adobe Content Viewer opens. And here we have our initial image. And when the user interacts with it by touching it, it'll open full screen on the device, and the user will then have the opportunity to navigate that image simply by moving the finger on the tablet device. Okay, so this is how we create this sort of immersive 360-degree experience in InDesign for the Digital Publishing Suite. Then there's also other things that we can do. Let me use that pan and zoom for a second. A pan and zoom basically is an image frame that crops an image. Let me import an image to do that. Let's take a rather large image over here. Let's go over here into my pan and zoom folder, and in the links folder I have this huge cityscape image. It's actually Barcelona. I'm going to start dragging it into my InDesign document, and clicking and dragging I will define the initial size of that pan and zoom. Okay? Of course, the image will then be centered and rescaled in that image frame, but by selecting it with my direct selection tool, I can actually change the percentage of that back to 100 so that the entire image is now cropped. I only see a portion of it. And then by using the content grabber here, my little donut tool, I can move the image around exactly into the position that I want it to initially be inside of my publication. If we go over here to pan and zoom, and select the image, pan and zoom. I can define whether I want the image to only pan, therefore only move inside of that area that I've defined, or if I also want my user to actually be able to zoom in and out of that image. Let's check that out under File, Folio Preview, and in the Adobe Content Viewer, this is what we'll see. This is the image that I've actually selected here. We can see that in InDesign. But then, when my user starts moving the image around by first touching it, you see that you can pan and zoom that image to see the entire image. It's like the ability to actually crop the image and let the user have another experience, like see things that initially were not visible in that document. So let's close this and move to something else. Web content. Web content is actually probably one of the most interesting things, as far as I'm concerned, in the Adobe Digital Publishing Suite, content-wise, let's say like that. Because InDesign actually lets you either connect to data that is on the internet through a URL and display it on the page in the digital publication, or you can also import HTML content and embed that inside of your publication. So there's actually two things. One that requires an internet connection to view the content, and another solution that lets you embed that content and does not require an internet connection. Let's see the first one. Let me first create a frame here. Let's make that frame this whole page. And let's actually put an image in here. Go over back over here to Bridge and take this little Twitter image that I have here and put it in my InDesign document and let it go here. All right. So with my content grabber, I can sort of center that like this. Perfect. And basically what I want to have here is the ability for my readers to see my Twitter stream, but my Twitter stream in real time. So with the image selected now, I will go over here in the Overlay Creator in the Web Content part and actually add the URL that I want to follow. That's my Twitter feed right here. We can then choose whether to autoplay that web content. In this case, I would like my user to choose to actually touch the icon and open the internet connection. But it's nice to know that you can autoplay web content so that it automatically enters the page. I can also have a transparent background on that web page. I can allow or disallow user interaction on the web page itself, and I can also tell InDesign to scale the HTML content on the area that I have defined here. In this case, I don't want to scale the content. So with the URL up here and allowing the user interaction, I will now go over to the Folio preview and let's see how this web content actually works on the tablet device. In the content viewer, I have this page, and if I click on that, the internet page opens because it opened a connection with the internet and shows the page as if it were in a browser. And as you can see, there is all the user interaction that can be on the original Twitter page. All right, let's show another example. Let's move down here to page number 2. And basically what I want to do here is to include web content that is not online. And basically what I have here, and let's go back to web content, is a little website that I created using Adobe Muse. Let's go over here into the correct folder and in the web content folder and choose my little web content that I created with Muse. What you need to select here is the initial page. In that case, it's the index file. And when you open that, this will then be displayed in here. Again, I can tell InDesign to autoplay that. In that case, I do want it to autoplay. I want the transparent background. I also want to allow user interaction. And I don't want to scale the content to fit. File, Folio Preview. And in the Adobe Content Viewer on page 2, we will now see that HTML content that is embedded inside of the page. All right, so as soon as I get to the page, the content automatically loads. And with the user interaction, I can now press the various areas here and have that accordion work inside of my digital publication. And the reason why I said that HTML is a great addition to the digital publishing suite is that you can create interaction that is otherwise impossible to create in InDesign. So always think that if you need something more than what InDesign offers you in the Overlay Creator panel here, think about it as HTML. Okay? Because you can either embed that inside of your folio, or you can link to an external resource and download the HTML on the go. Let's move over to my last example here, and that is really scrollable text. In that case, what I have, and let's hide this for a second here, I have a piece of text here that I want to scroll in an area that I have here. Okay? So there's actually two ways to do that. The first way is the layers method. And what I will do here is simply place my text here and create another frame on top of that one that actually has the same size. Let's put it like that. And have these two elements on top of each other. But there's a little trick here. I need to create another layer that is actually called scrollable content. Okay, it's really important that this layer is actually called like that. And then I would take my scrollable content and actually move it into that layer. Let's see how that is called. This is, of course, the default name that InDesign gives to any text frame, but I will change that name by double-clicking on it and changing it to ingredients. Okay? The important thing is also that the box that we've created on top of it, let me just select that and deselect the text frame, on another layer here has actually the same name. So if I change the name of that to ingredients, InDesign will know that this is the container and that this is the scrollable content. And because they have the same name, it'll know how to associate those two. If I go here to File, Folio Preview, and open the Adobe Content Viewer, we now have this scrollable text here on the side. Okay? So this is the first way to put scrollable content in your document. Let's look at the other way. The other way really is based on the pan method. And the way it works is simply by taking an element and pasting it into another frame. So I'm going to take these elements, I'm going to group them together and cut them out of the page, Command X, and create a little area down here, like this, and actually go to Edit and paste everything into that new element that I've created. And then with my selection tool, I can then go in here and actually move the element exactly to where it needs to be. Okay, this is where I will start with that panning. And then with the element selected, I would go over here to my Overlay Creator panel and choose Pan Only. Okay, so what I did is take these objects, pasted them into another one, and then define here in the Overlay Creator that this object must pan only. Okay, there's no need for the zooming here. And then if I go here to Folio Preview, we will look at that second page in the Adobe Content Viewer. Let's move down. This is my other scrollable text, and as you can see, it works the exact same way. So remember that when you have scrollable content, there's actually two ways you can do it. Either you use the layer method or this last method that I've shown you, which is the pan only method. All right, and with this, we've actually looked at everything that you can do inside of the Overlay Creator panel. But these various functions are, of course, the basic functions that you can work with. Now, the only limit to how creative your digital documents will actually be is how creatively you can use this limited set of tools that allows you to do hyperlinks, slideshows, image sequences, audio and video, panoramas, web content, and pan and zoom, and actually create killer apps to be distributed on tablet devices. Thanks for joining me today, and see you soon.